Hello and welcome back to Jazzonomics. Today's episode looks at one album in particular that turned up in a job lot on Facebook Marketplace. There were 60 CDs, there was a little of interest, but there was one that really stood out, and it features a performer whose CDs don't turn up very often. He is most famous for his work with two doomed trumpeters, Clifford Brown, who died in a car crash at 25, and Booker Little, who died of kidney disease at 23. He may also well be Charlie Parker's greatest ever drummer. He is the educator, activist, and drummer Max Roach. And the album of his that was in that job lot is We Insist, Max Roach's Freedom Now Suite. The artwork on the front of the album pertains to sit-ins that were happening in the south of the United States in round about 1960, where Afro-Americans were campaigning for civil rights. This album has historical, cultural and political significance. It resides in the National Library of Congress in the United States. All of the jazz reference books that I've read say that this avant-garde piece is a great work of art and should be the core of any jazz collection. I shall review the album now. The first track is called Driver Man, and it has vocals by Abby Lincoln, which are repetitive and insistent. There are horns playing over the top of it. The subject matter of this particular piece of music is similar to Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones, where slavery and sexual exploitation are talked about. So far, so good. The second track, there are no vocals. The horn playing on the second track is pretty decent, and then we go to the third track, and things take something of a downturn. With it being a drummer's album, I expect there to be a reasonable amount of percussion on there. The third track has an awful lot of what can only be described as tub thumping and bongo banging, with ethereal warbling over the top from Max Roach's wife, Abby Lincoln. That's her name. I'm struggling to think of her name. And then the warbling turns into something far more unpleasant. The warbling turns into screaming and hollering, and it really is quite an unpleasant and painful listen. And I know it's supposed to signify the Afro-American struggle, but the last time that I heard sounds like that coming out of somebody's mouth, it was from mine, and I was trying to reprogram the iPlayer on the telly the other morning. The frustration was extreme, although I'm not wishing to equate it with the Afro-American experience in the 1960s. The fourth track also has ethereal warbling, if I remember correctly, and an awful lot of percussion. There's a little bit of sort of South African horn playing on the album, but my God, that piece goes on and on and on. The fifth track, in comparison, isn't too bad. The first time that I heard this album, I had to turn it off because it did make me quite angry. I was in the kitchen cooking something barely edible, and I really had my fill, and I had to remove the knife from my hand in case I did myself some significant damage. Cooking and listening to that probably isn't the greatest combination. It probably needs a little more thought. I probably should have put on some, I don't know, the Lighthouse Family or the World's Greatest Mom CD, something like that. There was somebody on B Sky Social who messaged me about this album, wondering whether it was for sale. And I said, no, I wouldn't touch it if I were you. And my exact words were, it's fucking terrible. It's not fucking terrible, but it's not an album that I will be listening to again. At the moment, it's sitting in a job lot on eBay, and I need it to be removed from the house. This was a public service announcement. irrespective of what you read about Max Roach's Freedom Now suite, don't buy it. It's quite unpleasant at times. Thank you very much for watching. This was, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. This was Jazzonomics.